The Sterling ballroom glittered with champagne flutes and designer gowns. Whispers rippled through the crowd when Arya Sterling entered with him, a man in a simple gray suit. No cufflinks, no watch worth mentioning. He looked like someone who had wandered in from a coffee shop. The ceremony proceeded smoothly until the groom turned to kiss his bride. He froze mid-motion, his eyes locked on that ordinary man sitting in the third row. The color drained from his face. He released his bride's hands and walked straight toward him. The ballroom went silent. But that moment, the one where everything shattered, came later. 3 weeks before the wedding, Jonas sat in the corner of Brew and Page's, a bookstore cafe tucked between a dry cleaner and a bakery on Maple Street. The place smelled like old paper and espresso. He came here every Tuesday and Thursday morning after dropping his daughter at school. No one bothered him. No one knew him. That was the point. He had a paperback open in front of him, something about the Cold War, but he was not really reading. He was just sitting, existing. The cafe was nearly empty. A college student typed furiously on a laptop near the window. An older man read the newspaper by the register. And then the door opened. She walked in wearing jeans and a loose sweater, her hair tied back in a ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry. She looked tired. She ordered a black coffee and sat at the table across from him. Jonas glanced up briefly, then back at his book. She did not look at him at all. That was how it started. Not with conversation, not with introduction, just two people occupying the same quiet space. She came back the next week. Same table, same coffee, same tired eyes. This time she brought a laptop and worked in silence. Jonas did not ask what she did. She did not ask what he was reading. It was an unspoken agreement. This place was neutral ground. The third week, she forgot her charger. Her laptop died halfway through whatever she was working on. She sighed and closed it, leaning back in her chair. Jonas kept reading, but he could feel her restlessness across the room. "Do you ever feel like the world is too loud?" she asked suddenly. Jonas looked up. She was not looking at him. She was staring at her coffee cup. "Every day," Jonas said. She smiled faintly. "Good. I thought it was just me." That was the first real thing they said to each other. Her name was Arya. She did not tell him her last name. He did not ask. He told her his name was Jonas. He did not mention his daughter. She did not mention her work. They talked about books, about the weather, about nothing important, and it felt like the first honest conversation Jonas had had in years. After that, they fell into a rhythm. Tuesdays and Thursdays, same cafe, same corner. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they did not. Arya never wore anything expensive. She never mentioned money or business or the life Jonas assumed she had outside this place. And Jonas never mentioned the fact that he was raising a kid alone, or that his life was a carefully constructed routine designed to avoid attention. One Thursday, Arya showed up looking worse than usual. She sat down heavily, rubbed her face, and ordered 2 shots of espresso instead of her usual black coffee. "Bad day?" Jonas asked. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Bad year." He did not press. That was not how they worked. But she kept talking anyway. "My family thinks I do not have a life. They think all I do is work. And they are right. But the second I try to do something for myself, they have opinions about it." Jonas closed his book. "What kind of opinions?" "The kind that come with conditions," Arya said. She looked at him for a long moment. "Do you have family like that?" "I do not have much family left," Jonas said. "But I remember what it is like to be controlled by people who think they know better." Arya nodded slowly. "I wish I could just disappear sometimes. Just be no one." Jonas understood that more than she knew. They kept meeting. Weeks turned into a month. Then 2. Arya started smiling more. Jonas found himself looking forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays in a way he had not looked forward to anything in a long time. She made him feel normal. He made her feel seen. It was not love yet, but it was something. Then one day, Arya noticed something. Jonas had left his phone face up on the table while he went to order another coffee. A notification lit up the screen. She did not mean to look, but the name caught her eye. The sender was listed as M. Reynolds. The message preview read, "Meeting confirmed for next week. They are very eager to move forward." Arya stared at the screen. M. Reynolds. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but she could not place it. When Jonas returned, she did not mention it. But the seed of curiosity had been planted. The next week, Arya arrived early. She watched Jonas through the cafe window before going inside. He was on his phone, speaking quietly. His posture was different, more assured, more deliberate. When he ended the call and slipped the phone into his pocket, he looked around briefly before picking up his book. Arya walked in and sat down across from him. "You look busy today," she said casually. Jonas glanced up. "Just the usual." "What is the usual for you?" Arya asked. It was the first time she had asked him anything direct about his life. Jonas set down his book. "Meetings, phone calls, nothing interesting." "What kind of meetings?" Arya pressed gently. Jonas hesitated. She could see him weighing his words. "Business stuff. Investments. I help people get their projects off the ground." "Like a consultant?" Arya asked. "Something like that," Jonas said. He did not elaborate. Arya let it drop, but she noticed the way he redirected the conversation, the way he kept his answers vague. It reminded her of herself, the way she avoided talking about her family or her last name. They were both hiding something. Over the next few days, Arya could not stop thinking about it. She told herself it did not matter. Everyone had secrets. Everyone had parts of their life they kept private. But the more she thought about Jonas, the more questions she had. One Thursday, Arya decided to test him. She mentioned a tech startup that had recently gone public. It was a company everyone in her circles was talking about. Jonas listened politely, but when she mentioned the founder's name, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, and something else. "Do you know him?" Arya asked. Jonas shook his head. "I have heard of him. Impressive story." But Arya noticed the way his hand moved slightly, the way he looked away just a fraction too quickly. He was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. That night, Arya did something she was not proud of. She searched online for investors connected to that startup. The list was long, but one name kept appearing in footnotes and obscure articles. J. Vale. No photos, no interviews. Just a name attached to some of the most successful companies of the last decade. The articles described him as a ghost, a legend, someone who funded empires and then disappeared. Arya stared at her laptop screen. J. Vale. Jonas. It could not be a coincidence, but if Jonas was J. Vale, why was he sitting in a tiny cafe on Maple Street pretending to be no one? The next time they met, Arya watched him differently. She noticed the quiet confidence underneath the casual exterior. The way other people in the cafe never seemed to recognize him, but occasionally someone would glance his way with vague familiarity before dismissing it. "Can I ask you something?" Arya said. Jonas looked up from his book. "Sure." "Why do you come here?" Arya asked. "To this cafe. Twice a week. Always at the same time." Jonas considered the question. "Because it is quiet. And no one expects anything from me." "Do people usually expect things from you?" Arya asked. Jonas met her eyes. They used to. Arya felt something shift between them, a crack in the wall they had both built. What changed? "I did," Jonas said simply. He closed his book and leaned back in his chair. "I used to live a different kind of life, one where everyone wanted something, where every conversation was a transaction. And I got tired of it, so I walked away." "What did you walk away from?" Arya asked. Jonas looked at her for a long moment. She could see him deciding how much to say. "Everything." Arya wanted to press further, but Jonas's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and silenced it without comment. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jonas spoke again. "Can I ask you something?" Arya nodded. "Why do you come here?" Jonas asked. "You have a life outside this cafe, a family, responsibilities. But you show up here twice a week like it is the only place that matters. Arya looked down at her coffee. Because it is the only place where I am just Arya. Not Arya Sterling. Not the daughter or the sister or the heir to anything. Just me. Jonas's expression softened. I understand that. Do you? Arya asked. Because sometimes I feel like I am the only person in the world who wants to be invisible. You are not, Jonas said quietly. Trust me. They looked at each other across the table. Two people hiding from the world in a tiny cafe on Maple Street. Two people who had found something real in the space between their secrets. But Arya could not shake the feeling that Jonas was more than he seemed, that the man sitting across from her was someone important, someone powerful, someone who had chosen to disappear, and she wondered if he would ever trust her enough to tell her why. The following Thursday, Arya did not show up. Jonas waited for an hour, telling himself it did not matter. People had lives. She probably had a meeting. Or maybe she just did not feel like coming. But something felt different this time. Deliberate. On Tuesday, she was back. She walked in with her usual coffee and sat down across from him, but her expression was harder to read. Jonas noticed she kept glancing at him, then looking away. I need to tell you something, Arya said finally. Jonas closed his book and gave her his full attention. Okay, my sister is getting married, Arya said. In 2 weeks. Big event. My whole family will be there. Jonas waited. He could tell there was more. I do not want to go alone, Arya continued. She looked directly at him now. I was wondering if you would come with me. Jonas felt the weight of the question settle over him. This was exactly what he had been preparing for, what he had been planning. But hearing her ask made it real in a way he had not anticipated. You want me to come to your sister's wedding? Jonas asked carefully. I know it is a lot to ask, Arya said quickly. I know we do not really know each other that well, but I feel like I can breathe when I am around you, and I do not feel that way around anyone else, especially not at events like this. Jonas looked at her, at the woman who had been searching for information about him online, who had started asking questions, who was beginning to piece together the truth. He had known this moment would come, had prepared for it. This was his chance, his opportunity to manage how the truth came out. He could go to the wedding, let Marcus recognize him, and then pull Arya aside afterward to explain everything. It would be uncomfortable, but at least he could control the context. He would have time to talk to her, to make her understand why he had kept his identity hidden. What kind of event are we talking about? Jonas asked. Arya looked down. The kind where people judge you based on your last name and your net worth. The kind where I have to smile and pretend I am not being suffocated. Jonas set his coffee cup down. Why me? Because you do not care about any of that, Arya said. Because you see me, not the version of me everyone else expects. Jonas thought about his daughter, about the quiet life he had built, about the fact that he had spent years avoiding rooms full of people who thought they were better than him. But this was different. This was strategic. He was choosing to walk into that room knowing exactly what would happen. Okay, Jonas said. Arya blinked. Okay? I will go with you, Jonas said. He kept his voice calm, but inside he was already mapping out the evening. Marcus would recognize him during the ceremony. There would be a scene, and then Jonas would take Arya somewhere private and tell her everything. It was not perfect, but it was better than letting her find out on her own. Arya's expression shifted. Relief. Gratitude. You do not have to dress up or anything. Just be yourself. That is all I need. Jonas nodded, already thinking ahead. He would wear his gray suit, the one that looked ordinary but fit well, the one that would make him blend in just enough until Marcus changed everything. Thank you, Arya said softly. I know it is going to be uncomfortable, but I am glad you will be there. Jonas reached across the table and took her hand. I will be there. What he did not say was that he had already decided how the night would end, that every moment in this cafe had been leading to this. Over the next few days, Jonas finalized his approach. He would let the recognition happen naturally. Marcus would see him. The truth would come out. And then Jonas would immediately take Arya aside, away from the crowd, and explain everything. His past, his reasons for hiding. He would give her the full story before anyone else could interfere. He knew it would be difficult, knew she would feel betrayed at first, but he also believed that if he could explain quickly enough, if he could make her understand that he had been protecting what they had, she might forgive him. 3 days before the wedding, Arya texted him. It was the first time she had ever messaged him outside of their cafe meetings. The message was short. "My sister sent over some wardrobe suggestions for you. I told her you would wear whatever you wanted, but I wanted you to know what you are walking into." Attached were links to designer suits. Each one cost thousands of dollars. Jonas stared at the links. He knew exactly what Arya's family thought of him. He texted back, "I will wear what I always wear. If that is a problem for her, she can take it up with you." Arya's response came quickly. "They are going to judge you." Jonas typed his reply carefully. "I know, but that will not last long." Arya sent back a question mark emoji, but Jonas did not elaborate. He could not. Not yet. The next time they met at the cafe, Arya looked nervous. She sat down across from him and immediately started talking about the wedding, about her family, about how suffocating it all felt. Jonas listened, but he was running through scenarios in his mind, trying to anticipate every possible reaction. "Are you sure you still want to do this?" Arya asked suddenly. Jonas looked at her. "I am sure, because you can back out," Arya said. "I would understand. I know my family can be a lot." Jonas reached across the table and took her hand. "I am not backing out. I will be there. And afterward, we are going to talk. Really talk. About everything." Arya frowned slightly. "About everything? There are things I need to tell you," Jonas said carefully. "Things I should have told you already. But I want to do it at the right time, in the right way." Arya's expression shifted. Suspicion mixed with curiosity. "What kind of things?" Jonas squeezed her hand. "After the wedding, I promise." Arya looked like she wanted to press further, but something in Jonas's expression stopped her. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Okay, after the wedding." Jonas felt a flicker of guilt. He was still managing the narrative, still deciding when and how the truth came out, but he told himself it was different this time. He was not hiding anymore. He was just choosing the moment. The morning of the wedding, Jonas woke up early. He made breakfast for his daughter, drove her to her mother's house, and then went home to get ready. He put on his gray suit. It was clean. It fit well enough. But it was not expensive. It did not have a designer label. It was just a suit. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw exactly what Arya's family would see initially. A man who did not belong in their world. Someone ordinary. Someone forgettable. But Jonas knew what was coming. He had made peace with it. Arya picked him up in a car that cost more than most people's houses. She looked beautiful. Her dress was simple but elegant, dark blue and understated. She smiled when she saw him, but there was tension in her eyes. "You look great," Arya said. Jonas got in the car. "You look nervous." "I am," Arya admitted. She pulled away from the curb and headed toward the highway. "But I am glad you are coming with me." They did not talk much on the drive. The wedding was at a private estate, an hour outside the city. The kind of place that required an invitation just to get through the gate. When they arrived, Jonas saw exactly what he had expected. Valettes in white gloves, marble fountains, a ballroom that could fit 200 people comfortably. Arya took his arm as they walked in. People turned to look. Jonas felt their eyes on him immediately. He heard the whispers, saw the glances. A man in a cheap suit, a woman worth millions. It did not add up, and everyone knew it. Arya's grip on his arm tightened. "Ignore them." "I am," Jonas said. But he was not. He saw every look, felt every judgment, and he knew that soon all of it would change. They found their seats near the front. Arya's mother glanced at Jonas once, her expression carefully neutral, disapproving but polite. Her sister, Clarissa, smiled at them from across the room, but it was the kind of smile that did not mean anything, and the groom, Marcus, did not even look their way. Not yet. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke about love and commitment. The bride and groom exchanged vows, and Jonas sat quietly beside Arya, feeling the weight of a world that had never been his. Arya reached over and squeezed his hand. Jonas squeezed back. He wanted to tell her that everything was about to change, that in a few minutes she would understand. But he did not say anything. He just held her hand and waited. Then Marcus turned to kiss his bride, and everything stopped. Marcus froze mid-motion. His lips hovered an inch from Clarissa's, but he was not looking at her anymore. He was looking past her shoulder, past the officiant, past the rows of guests. He was looking directly at Jonas. The color drained from Marcus's face. Jonas watched it happen. This was the moment, the one he had anticipated. But even with all his planning, he had not fully grasped how exposed this would feel. Clarissa noticed first. Her smile faltered. She touched Marcus's arm, confused, but Marcus did not respond. He just stared. And then, slowly, he released her hands. The officiant cleared his throat. "You may now." But Marcus was already walking. Down the steps of the altar, past the front row where Arya's mother sat frozen, past the bridesmaids who exchanged nervous glances. He walked straight toward Jonas. Jonas did not move. He sat perfectly still as Marcus stopped in front of him. Arya looked at Marcus, then at Jonas. Confusion written across her face. This was the moment Jonas had been waiting for, the moment when the truth would finally come out. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. 200 people watched as Marcus stood in front of Jonas, his face pale, his hands trembling slightly. Then Marcus dropped his head. "Sir," he said quietly. The word cut through the silence. Arya looked between them, trying to understand. Jonas kept his expression neutral, but inside he knew the next few minutes would determine everything. Marcus straightened, his eyes wet. "You saved my company. 3 years ago, when I was about to lose everything. When every investor had walked away and the banks would not touch me, you were the only one who believed in me. You gave me a second chance." The room erupted in whispers. Jonas could feel the shift, the recalculation. Every person in that ballroom was suddenly trying to place him. Marcus's voice shook as he continued. "If it were not for you, I would not be standing here today. I would not have any of this. I owe you everything." Jonas said nothing. He just looked at Marcus with the same calm expression he always had. But his mind was working fast. This was going exactly as he had anticipated, but Marcus was making it more dramatic than Jonas had hoped. Marcus looked around the room, addressing everyone now. "This man is Jay Vale. Some of you have heard the name. Most of you have spent years trying to find him. He is the investor who has funded half the startups in this city, the one who turned no-names into empires, and he did it all without ever asking for credit." The whispers turned into a roar. People stood. Phones came out. Arya's mother covered her mouth. Clarissa stood frozen at the altar, her bouquet hanging limp in her hands. Arya's voice was barely a whisper. "Jay Vale." Jonas turned to her, ready to execute the next part of his plan. "We need to talk. Not here. Somewhere private." But before he could stand, before he could take her hand and lead her away, Arya pulled back. Her face had gone pale. She was staring at him like she had never seen him before. "You are Jay Vale," Arya said. It was not a question. "Yes," Jonas said. He reached for her hand. "And I was going to tell you. Tonight, after the ceremony. That was always the plan." Arya stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "The plan?" Jonas stood with her, acutely aware that every eye in the room was still on them. "Can we please go somewhere else to talk about this?" But Arya was not listening. She was backing away from him. "You planned this? You knew Marcus would recognize you?" Jonas felt his strategy unraveling. "I knew there was a chance, and I thought if it happened, I could explain everything afterward, before anyone else got to you." Arya shook her head slowly. You have been planning this the whole time? Since I asked you to come? Once you asked me, yes, Jonas said. He was trying to keep his voice calm. I realized this was the best way to tell you the truth. I did not want you to find out on your own. The word hung in the air between them. Arya looked around the ballroom, at the people who were still watching, at her mother, who was already making her way toward them, at Clarissa, who looked like she wanted to scream. You brought me here knowing this would happen, Arya said. Knowing my sister's wedding would turn into a spectacle. And you thought that was better than just telling me the truth? Jonas opened his mouth, but Arya was not done. How long were you planning to keep this from me? She asked. If I had not invited you to this wedding, would you have ever told me? Yes, Jonas said. I was going to tell you. I just needed to find the right moment. Arya laughed, but there was no humor in it. The right moment. And you decided that moment was in the middle of my sister's wedding ceremony? In front of 200 people? I did not decide that, Jonas said. Marcus did. I just thought if it happened, I could manage the situation. I could take you aside and explain before things got out of hand. Manage it, Arya said. She looked at him with something close to disgust. That is what you do, is not it? You manage things. You decide when and how information gets out. Jonas felt something break open inside him. I was trying to protect what we have. By lying to me? Arya's voice rose. By manipulating the situation so you could tell me the truth on your terms? I never lied, Jonas said. But even as he said it, he knew it was not enough. You did not tell the truth either, Arya shot back. And planning this whole thing, deciding how and when I would find out, that is worse than lying. That is control. That is exactly what I have been trying to escape my whole life. Arya's mother was suddenly there, pushing between them with a practiced smile. She reached for Jonas's hand. Mr. Vale, I had no idea. If I had known, Jonas pulled his hand back. Please, not now. But Arya's mother was not deterred. We are so honored to have you here. Please, stay for the reception. There are so many people here who would benefit from meeting you. Jonas looked at her and saw exactly what he had been trying to avoid. The shift. The sudden interest in a man they had ignored minutes ago. No, Jonas said simply. I am not staying. And I am not interested in being introduced to anyone. He turned back to Arya. Please, let me explain. Just give me 10 minutes. Somewhere private. But Arya was already walking away. She moved quickly through the crowd, ignoring the people who tried to stop her. Clarissa called after her, but Arya did not turn around. Jonas followed. He pushed past Arya's mother, past Marcus, who was still standing there looking guilty, past all the guests who were now pulling out their phones. He caught up with Arya on the terrace. She was standing at the railing, her back to him. Arya, Jonas said quietly. She did not turn around. Did you know I was researching you? Jonas went still. What? Arya finally turned to face him. Her eyes were red. I saw a message on your phone a few weeks ago, from someone named M. Reynolds, and I started wondering who you really were. So I looked you up. I found articles about J. Vale. I put the pieces together. Jonas felt the ground shift beneath him. You knew? I suspected, Arya said. But I was not sure, and I thought if I was right, if you really were J. Vale, you would tell me. I thought you would trust me enough to tell me the truth. Jonas reached for her, but she stepped back. I was going to tell you. That is why I agreed to come tonight. I knew Marcus might recognize me, and I thought that would be the catalyst. You thought wrong, Arya said. Her voice was cold now. Because what you actually did was manipulate me into bringing you here so you could control how I found out. You used my sister's wedding as a stage for your reveal. That is not fair, Jonas said. I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing would have been to tell me weeks ago, Arya said. The right thing would have been to sit me down at the cafe and be honest. But you did not do that. You waited. You planned. You decided that you knew better than me. Jonas felt anger rising. You want to talk about truth? You were investigating me. You were looking me up online, trying to figure out who I was, and you never said anything. How is that different? Arya's eyes flashed. Because I was trying to understand. I was not planning some elaborate reveal. I was just trying to decide if I could trust you. And what did you decide? Jonas asked. Arya looked at him for a long moment. I decided I could not. The words hit Jonas hard. He had expected anger, had expected hurt. But not this. Not this finality. You do not mean that, Jonas said. I do, Arya said. Because even now, even after everything, you still think you did the right thing. You still think planning this out was somehow better than just being honest with me. Jonas shook his head. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to make sure you heard the truth from me before you heard it from anyone else. I did not need protection, Arya said. I needed honesty. And you could not give me that. Inside the ballroom, the reception was starting up. Someone had convinced Clarissa and Marcus to continue. The music was playing. People were pretending nothing had happened. But out on the terrace, everything had changed. What do you want me to do? Jonas asked quietly. Arya wiped her eyes. I want you to leave. I want you to go back to your quiet life and your cafe, and I want you to leave me alone. Jonas felt something shatter inside him. Arya, I mean it, Arya said. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were steady. I thought you were different. I thought you were someone who understood what it was like to be suffocated by expectations. But you are just like everyone else. You just hide it better. Jonas wanted to argue, wanted to explain, but looking at her now, seeing the pain in her eyes, he realized that nothing he said would make a difference. So he nodded. Okay. He turned and walked away. Past the guests who were still whispering. Past Marcus, who looked like he wanted to apologize. Past Arya's mother, who was now surrounded by people asking about Jay Vale. Jonas did not stop. He walked straight to the valet, got his keys, and drove away. Jonas sat in his car outside Bruin Page's for 2 hours. The cafe was dark. The street was empty. He watched the building and thought about everything that had happened. His phone buzzed. Not Arya, just notifications. Messages from numbers he did not recognize. Investors, entrepreneurs, people who had somehow gotten his contact information. All of them wanted meetings, wanted his time, wanted a piece of what Jay Vale could offer them. He turned the phone off. Jonas replayed the evening in his mind. Every decision, every calculation. He had thought he was being strategic, but Arya was right. He had been trying to control the narrative, to decide how and when she learned the truth, and in doing that, he had become exactly what he hated. He thought about his ex-wife, about how she had made decisions without him, used his name to open doors he had wanted to keep closed. He had walked away from that marriage because he refused to be controlled. But what had he just done to Arya? He had controlled when she learned the truth, controlled the circumstances, controlled everything except her right to decide for herself. Jonas started the car. He drove back toward the Sterling estate. The reception was winding down when he arrived. Cars were leaving. The lights were still on. He parked near the fountain and walked back inside. He found Arya on the terrace. She was alone, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold. She did not turn when he approached, but he knew she heard him. I thought you left, Arya said quietly. Jonas stopped a few feet away. I did, but I came back. Arya finally looked at him. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were red. Why? Because you were right, Jonas said. About all of it. Arya did not respond, just waited. Jonas took a breath. I spent the last 2 hours sitting outside that cafe thinking about what you said. And you were right. I was trying to control how you found out. I told myself it was to protect you, but really I was just doing what I always do, making decisions for other people because I think I know better. He moved closer. 12 years ago, I walked away from my marriage because my wife was making decisions without me, using my name without asking, and I swore I would never let anyone control me like that again. But I did not realize I was doing the same thing. just in a different way. Arya's expression softened slightly, but she did not speak. I should have told you the truth weeks ago, Jonas continued. The day after you asked me to come to this wedding, I should have sat you down and explained everything, who I am, why I left that world. But I did not trust you enough, and that was wrong. Jonas looked down. I did not trust myself either. I have spent 12 years being burned by people who said they loved me but really loved what I could give them, and I was terrified that if you knew who I was, you would become one of those people. But you were never like them. You were researching me because you wanted to understand. And I should have seen that. Arya wiped her eyes. You should have. I know, Jonas said. And I am sorry. I'm sorry I planned this instead of just being honest. I am sorry I used your sister's wedding, and I am sorry I made you feel like you could not trust me. Arya looked out at the dark garden. Do you know what the worst part is? It is not that you kept a secret. It is that even when you decided to tell me, you could not just tell me. You had to orchestrate it. Jonas nodded. You are right. And I do not have an excuse. Just a reason. And the reason is that I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of becoming Jay, veil again in your eyes. Scared of watching you treat me differently. I would not have, Arya said quietly. I know that now, Jonas said. But I did not know it then. And that is on me. They stood in silence for a moment. The music from inside had stopped. The reception was over. Somewhere in the city, people were already talking about what had happened. What happens now? Arya asked. Jonas looked at her. That is up to you. Arya turned to face him fully. I need you to understand something. I do not care that you are Jay Vale. I do not care about the money or the power. What I care about is trust. And you broke mine tonight. I know, Jonas said. But, Arya continued, I also know what it is like to be scared of being used. To have people want you for what you can give them. And I understand why you did what you did. I do not agree with it. But I understand it. Jonas felt something loosen in his chest. So where does that leave us? Arya crossed her arms. It leaves us with a choice. We can walk away from this and go back to our separate lives. Or we can try to build something real. Something based on actual trust. I want the second one, Jonas said immediately. So do I, Arya said. But it means no more secrets, no more planning. If we are going to do this, we do it honestly, even when it is uncomfortable. Jonas nodded. I can do that. Can you? Arya asked. Because being honest means trusting me to handle the truth. All of it. Jonas met her eyes. Yes, I can do that. Arya studied him for a long moment. Then she held out her hand. Prove it. Tell me something right now that you have been afraid to tell me. Jonas looked at her outstretched hand. Then he took it. My daughter knows about you. I told her I was going to a wedding with someone important to me, and she asked if you were going to be her new mom. I did not know what to say. Arya's eyes widened slightly. What did you tell her? I told her it was too early to know, Jonas said. But that I hoped so. Arya squeezed his hand. That was honest. It was terrifying, Jonas admitted. Good, Arya said. That is what trust feels like. She pulled him closer. I am still angry with you, and it is going to take time for me to fully trust you again. But I am willing to try, if you are. Jonas wrapped his arms around her. I am. They stood like that for a long moment while the last of the wedding guests filtered out into the night. Out on the terrace, it was just Jonas and Arya. Two people who had found each other in a quiet cafe and decided they were worth the risk. Can we go home now? Arya asked softly. Jonas pulled back and looked at her. Your place or mine? Arya smiled. Yours. I want to meet your daughter. Jonas felt his heart skip. Right now? Not tonight, Arya said. But soon. If we are going to do this, if we are going to build something real, I want to know all of you. Jonas kissed her forehead. Okay, soon. They walked back through the ballroom together. A few people tried to stop them, but Jonas and Arya kept walking. They got in Arya's car and drove through the quiet streets. What are you thinking about? Arya asked. Jonas looked at her. That I spent 12 years hiding from who I used to be. But maybe I do not have to hide anymore. Not if I have someone who sees me and stays anyway. Arya reached over and took his hand. You do, and for the first time in a long time, Jonas believed it.